a large language model found a security flaw that my friend Adrian had missed. Now, Adrian is arguably one of the world's experts in container security. The machine beat him. That's the story that everybody wants to talk about, but it's the wrong story. After I saw Adrian's post about Claude finding a security flaw he missed, Reid Hoffman wrote a piece called In Defense of AI Slop. His argument is pretty simple. When Edison and Westinghouse brought their electrical grids online, businesses couldn't refactor their factories easily. They'd originally placed their generators in the centre and built the whole factory around this system of pulleys and belts. At the same time, the world of advertising did then exactly what they're doing now. They use this technology to create gigantic illuminated pickles, and in another example, quoting Reid's blog, the leaders of the world was a 2,000-foot sign on top of New York City's Hotel Normandy. It depicted a Roman chariot race, and it had nearly 20,000 light bulbs controlled by high-speed mechanical switches. What it did was stage a 30-second loop of stampeded horses and spinning wheels. Now, when it was eventually blown down in a storm, I'm sure that the neighbours were very happy. That was electricity slop. It's just like the type of shit we have to deal with now, the AI slop. The terrible content on LinkedIn, sorry Reid, the terrible content on LinkedIn, on Twitter and all of that stuff. So we're coping with that stuff right now. What Hoffman argues, and what I argue in Visionaries, Rebels and Machines, is that we build machines years before we know what to do with them. Decades can pass between their invention and the time it takes to find sensible uses for them. This, of course, kills the idiotic myth that necessity is the mother of invention. Often curiosity is the mother of invention. The people who close that gap are the third inventors. So roughly speaking, there are three types of inventor. The first makes the breakthrough discovery. That's a component that makes everything else possible. The second assembles those components into a working system. But the third inventor is the one who takes the working system on the one hand and maps it to unarticulated and possibly even unknown use cases on the other. In other words, they find uses that were previously unimaginable. Technologies, in other words, are solutions looking for problems, which means, of course, that their destiny lies not in the hands of their creators, but in the hands of their users and, of course, their third inventors. So consider our old friend Samuel Morse. Now, his documented motivation for inventing the telegraph was, of course, to keep Italians out of America and slaves in bondage. He failed, not because somebody stopped him, but because third inventors took the telegraph and did things with it that he could not even imagine, let alone conceive. It was the Associated Press who used it to share news stories. It was quick-witted operators at Slough and Paddington Station right here in London that used it to catch a murderer, the very first time a telegraph had been used to fight crime. And of course, it was William Orton's Western Union who invented the wire transfer. Thus, much to my delight, because the man, after all, was a complete mad racist, even by the standards of his day, much to my delight, Morse discovered that it's not the inventors of the technology that dictate its destiny, but rather its users, and especially the users who are the third inventors. Now we can return to our times, and especially mine and Adrian's time. We have a great example of some bloke who sold books on the internet. He desperately needed to scale his web store quicker if he was to win the race for customers on the digital frontier, like Richard Sears and Alva Roebuck had once won the race for customers on the actual frontier. So this bookseller's running around his office screaming, "Developers are alchemists and our job is to do everything we can do to get them to do their alchemy." In that anger, using computers and that newfangled computer program, the World Wide Web, the bookseller's team, in their role of third inventor, invented cloud computing. Not long after that, the team at Docker made Linux containers usable and then went on to find great uses for them. They too, in my opinion, were in the role of third inventor. Okay, so now let's return to the beginning, back to Adrian. It is true that an LLM found a security flaw in his code, but two things need pointing out. The first is that Adrian's expertise is essential to understanding what the LLM told him. Could you imagine your mum or dad understanding what Claude was telling Adrian about container provenance? I don't think so. The second is that a machine did not beat him. In this example, Adrian is cast in the role of third inventor. What he's actually done is found a real use case for LLMs, cyber security. And now we get to a pretty uncomfortable truth with all of this stuff. If I was to tell you that my friend Adrian and Reid Hoffman, the founder of LinkedIn, both played a role in geopolitics, you might be thinking, I'm a little bit mad. But actually, they both do. And by the way, sorry to tell you this, so do you. Authoritarians and technological determinists share the same core belief that the future is inevitable, that you cannot shape it and you must fall into line. They need us, to quote somebody much more famous than me, to march in 7-league boots from one ruthless revolutionary conquest to another, tearing down old factories and industries, flinging up new processes with terrifying rapidity. Technical determinists and authoritarians need us to be passive. They need us to believe that we cannot impact the future. Hoffman is not being passive right now. Despite being in the crosshairs of the President of the United States for helping E. Jean Carroll out in her court case against him, Adrian is not being passive either, and neither am I. We cannot give in to the fantasy that the future is inevitable, and if Reid Hoffman can stand up to Trump, and if Adrian can shape the future of LLMs as we both, ever so slightly, shape the world of cloud computing, then so too can you. If you've enjoyed this, there's more in the links below. Until next time, goodbye. Hey everybody, thanks for listening. Just a reminder to follow Visionaries, Rebels and Machines on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. And please do leave a rating and review if you like what we're doing. It helps other people to discover the show, and of course, we'd like a few more listeners. To find out more about me, the work I do, or to buy a copy of the book, please visit the website. Thanks again, and we'll see you in the next episode.